and you should be unmuted.
Yes, I am. My name's Bob. I'm a heathen in recovery. I still pretty much do a talk the way I was taught to when I first came in, which my sobriety date is January 25th, 1994. Been continuously sober since then. I still have a sponsor, but I don't use them. Once a month, I call them and say, hi. I mean, I don't use them as a sponsor. And he's not a good sponsor, but that doesn't, in that every time I call, and the last time I tried was a couple of years ago, I first started going to secular meetings. I'm not even done talking and he's giving me the answer. We had a topic on this the other day, listening. But he's there for me. You know, when my mom died, just out of being, I think Ron refers to as indoctrinated in what you're supposed to do in certain circumstances. My mom was in a nursing home and I got a call from the nursing home. Well, I went there, but I usually went in the afternoon. And they said, maybe if you want to see her, come in the morning. So I said, all right. And just before I left the house, I picked the phone up, dialed him. He wasn't home. Or he didn't answer, whatever. I left a message on the answer machine, just told him where I was going. About an hour later, he came walking into the nursing home and into the room where I was sitting there with Mom. And then another person from the program showed up. My other half now, my significant other, we were going out at the time, but we weren't living together or anything. But she showed up and the three of us sat there till Mom passed. That's probably taking care of Mom those last 3.5 years of her life. Was probably one of my better accomplishments. I mean, I did fairly well at work and different things, but if I wasn't sober, I could not have done it. I would not have even tried. I love kittens there, Dwayne. So let's go back. I was raised in a single family home. My dad had problems keeping his zipper up, so but 1944, that was a big thing. I don't remember any other classmates that, you know, the father and mother were divorced, and my mom never talked about it, so I didn't know what was going on. I remember being at one of my friend's house, my best friend at the time, and his father looked at me and says, "What? Why doesn't your father live there?" And I looked at him and said, "I don't know." And I left it at that. I didn't try to go and find out why or what was going on. I had I'm sure it would have been diagnosed if they knew about it back then, attention deficit disorder. And in first grade, in 1 week's time, I went from, they had the different groups for reading based on what the kindergarten teacher had told them. And I went from the top group to the bottom because I was looking out the window and I didn't, of course, know what the word was when it was my turn to read. And school got a little, in those days, they just said you weren't trying. You were a daydreamer. I was told I was bad. I internalized a lot of that stuff. If I'm going to be bad, I'm going to be good at being bad. So I got luckily after 5th grade, we moved to another town, and I calmed down a little bit. But in fifth grade, I remember for about 3 months, the teacher and I left the building at the same time because I had automatic use staying after school. And then one time he was so mad at me, he put me out in the hallway. Had moved the desk out in the hallway, and principal came by and, "What are you doing out here?" I said, "Mr. Edelcheck told me to put the desk out here." So he went in and they moved me back inside. And I had one other real run-in with that teacher. I had a bad habit. I still have it today. I like to lean back in chairs. And he hated that. And I wasn't doing it to aggravate him. It was just a habit I had. But he came over, grabbed me by the shirt, picked me up, and started shaking me. And I punched him in the mouth. Now I was only 10 or 11, whatever the hell you are in fifth grade. I didn't do any damage, but I sure as hell shocked him. When we moved to the next town, I got very involved in Boy Scouts, mainly because outdoors, camping, that kind of stuff. I loved that. But I also had some problems there. It seems I have problems wherever I went. I started, I don't know, I stayed in a little longer than a lot of the guys, but I started smoking and they thought that was horrible. So the three of us that were in that troop the longest were officially made junior assistant scoutmasters. Only they told me not to sew it on my uniform. Things of that. Wasn't too long after that. All right, you're screwing me. I'm gonna screw you back. We had a local camp out, and I went and stole a couple beers from my brother and was drinking it. But that was just more of an act of defiance than wanting to drink. I get my freshman year of high school, I was sent up to Hinckley, Maine, a Christian school. And I wonder how much I came back from there a lot different than when I went. And I had a lot of problems from that point on, not in just my behavior, but in everything. And I was probably, without taking the acid, I was probably doing the Timothy Leary thing by the time I got up to junior, senior year. I was just dropping out. I wasn't, I only got graduated because I'm very good at taking tests. I don't freeze up. I know how I can think through, especially multiple choice. Oh, I got that one down pat. But that's how I got out of high school. That and I stopped going in my senior year. And they, I forgot to start the, well, whatever. I had the timer out here and I forgot. So they had me go into the school, some psychologist, whatever it was, and decided I needed therapy. So they sent me to the county therapist. And the first time I went, my mother was with me and nothing much happened. Second time I went, I wasn't in there 5 minutes. He had his hands inside my pants. I never went back. In fact, I never, except for marriage counselors, I never went back to any therapist. And it's probably just an excuse in my mind when I really look at it. Went in the Army. The helicopter mechanic in Germany. Was great duty. Learned to drink beer over there. I wasn't really fond of beer before I went over to Germany. And they had some real strong beer. I remember we'd run through the hole in the back of the fence around the base and go to, we called her mom, this old German lady. She did oil, she didn't actually do the laundry. She had a truck come in, but you gave her the laundry, she'd sew your patches, everything on, and sew your beer if you wanted it. So go over there right before going to the mess hall and drink 2 German beers. That's like drinking a 6-pack of American beer. And get a real buzz on going into the mess hall. We went out and drank most nights, but I really didn't have any problem. Well, nothing serious, put it that way. With the drinking, I just drank, and that was it. I got out of the Army and I started going to aircraft mechanic school. And I was working a full-time factory job at night. And I didn't drink. I was too tired all the time to drink. In fact, by the end of it, I had overdone it, like I overdo most things, to a point where I hardly laughed. I was just so tired and wore out that I hardly laughed. Graduated in January 1970, right at the time the bottom fell out of the aviation industry. Couldn't find a job, and I played that one up very dramatic for quite a few years after that. But again, I wasn't drinking alcoholically. Once in a blue moon, I remember going over to Mom's and with a 6-pack, putting in a refrigerator, cutting her lawn, drank 2 of them, go back the next week, drink 2 more, and not have much in between. But then I met a lady. A lot of my stories come out with, I met a lady. And things started changing. And I was introduced to marijuana and various other drugs along the way. And I fell into instantly, right off the bat. And I was addicted to methamphetamines for quite a while. I was horrible getting off of it. Not physical pain, mental stuff. I really thought I was going crazy. So I decided I better back out of the drugs. But I did it, piecemeal. I'm not going to do this drug anymore. I'm not going to use this system of delivery because that makes a big difference. And one by one, I was dropping them off, and I figured I'd never give marijuana up. Then I met another lady. And she's the only person I've ever seen get aggressive when she got high. And we ended up in some real fights high. And I didn't want to be fighting. I wanted to sit in the corner and just relax and enjoy myself. I met her on a blind date. We pulled in front of her house. It was a double date. And the guy in the front, while his date went in to get what turned out to be my future wife, but when he went in to get her, he relit a joint. She jumped in the car, ripped the joint out of my hand, took this monstrous hit off of it. We went to the local club, started drinking, dancing, and all that kind of stuff. And I was in love. I found the perfect woman. Yeah, that's what I thought at the time. 2 alcoholics together is not good. We used to rip the house apart drunk. She'd do something and I'd say, you think you can wreck this house? I'll show you how to wreck this house. Punching holes in the wall, kicking doors down, all that stupid crap. And the funniest part of it, looking back, is I thought it was okay because I was a carpenter and I was going to fix all this stuff. So, I'd just go patch up, cut out the old broken up sheetrock, put new one in, paint and what have you. The door took quite a bit of time, the bedroom door. And as we went along, we got, instead of getting closer, we got drifted farther and farther apart. And I remember her coming home one day, and she was standing there with her hands on her hips and telling me how she was going to Al-Anon because of me. Don't forget, she was my drinking partner, so she drank too. So, I mean, at first I said, God, what a traitor. But then, like about 2 weeks later, I remember sitting there and we had a bi-level. You came in through the garage, came up through the family room, rec room, whatever the hell you want to call it. And the rest of the house was upstairs. Well, I just about lived down there, including sleeping most of the time. And she came in and went up the stairs, nothing, didn't say anything. And I remember thinking, this Al-Anon stuff isn't so bad after all. Instead of, having our typical verbal confrontation over how much I had been drinking. So she was going off to her meetings. A while later, I'm really bad at how long time went by in that period of my life, because I very seldom was drawing a sober breath. And she came home that night and said she started going to AA. She thinks she's an alcoholic. And I'm going like, this don't sound right to me. I felt like I was being set up. So I didn't say anything. She'd just go, I'm going out to a meeting. I didn't know if it was AA, Al-Anon. She ended up in just about all of them, adult children, alcoholics, all kinds of stuff. She even ended up in some religious thing where they were doing the steps out of the big book. But I was watching her. She was sober and she was getting more clear-headed, and I was going the opposite direction. The one thing I can remember, this sounds really weird, but it's what happens to be the truth. I had this weird image of her, because she'd come to the stairwell, and there was metal banister and guardrail up there. And I had a picture of her as like a buzzard sitting up there hanging over, right down at me. And the thing, what do you want? And I kept coming back, peace and quiet. But she didn't honor that, needless to say. But one Saturday morning, she came down and she says, you want to go to a meeting with me? I said, yeah, all right, let's go see what this stuff's about. I had been to meetings many years before for another lady, but I wasn't that bad yet. If I ever got as bad as her and those other people, I'd go to the meetings. Yeah, here I am. The one thing I shared the other day, so it's on the top of my mind, I remember we got in some argument or another. I was within my first 30 days, and she said, there's one more bottle out in the garage. Why don't you go drink it? And I remember just thinking, you're not going to make me drink. It was more a defiance thing against her because I wanted to go in the garage and grab that bottle. Excuse me. Yeah, I lost where I was at, so give me a second and I'll find it, I hope. Or else you guys are just gonna sit here, no. I started going to meetings. And I didn't go every day. I didn't barely talk to anybody. The second the meeting was over, I was out the door. I didn't have anybody's phone number. In other words, I was following none of the suggestions. And I kept drinking. And I don't know if it was 6, 8 weeks. I just woke up one morning feeling horrible. And I guess it must have been a weekend, I guess. I'm not sure. I just remember I wasn't going to work that day. And I was just it wasn't so much a hangover. I had a little hangover, a little headache, but I was used to that. That was an everyday thing. I just felt horrible between my ears. And finally, through the day, it came to me that I go to these meetings and the vast majority of the people at the meetings were happy and sober. And I was neither one. And maybe I should follow the suggestions that they give. And that night I went and I got a sponsor, got a home group, and that was the last day I drank. So I guess that was the 24th of January. And once I got in, I went in with both feet. I helped in whatever way I could. Most of the places you had to fold the tables, the chairs, and put them away, or before the meeting set them up. And I was always involved in that. Next thing you know, I'm making coffee. I was a treasurer of a group and blah, 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 and a group rep and what have you. And at first I tried to find this God thing they were talking about, even though I was pretty skeptical at the beginning. And for years, I tried to, everything I heard them say, I tried to put it in and find this. No, I'm not gonna say it that way. I'm getting a little better. I was gonna say Sky Daddy, but this intervention is God. And the longer I went on being sober, the less I believed that there was such a thing or could be such a thing. And it was about 18 years sober by the time I started in meetings. People knew I had a problem with God, but before I started openly saying it. And I've got some feedback, not so nice feedback. On Zoom meetings about a little over a year ago, I was asked, I was going to one meeting a week, traditional AA on Zoom. And I was asked not to come back to that meeting because it seemed like every week when I went to that meeting, I mentioned I didn't believe in God. I didn't make a big deal out of it, but I didn't believe in God. I'm a so-so AA historian, and every once in a while I feed them something from that. But at that point in my sobriety, I was pretty much anti-traditional AA. But anyway, they asked me not to come back. And I could have gone back and raised hell and made their lives. But why? What was I going to get out of it? So I stopped going to the meeting. This week I intend to go to one on Wednesday night. They have a beginners meeting down in the club, and I love beginners meetings. The only one I don't go to is this group's. I go to plenty of other meetings, so, I've learned so much. I learned how to have a relationship with another person. It wasn't all about me. That was a big one. I grew up, like I said, in a single parent home. And the whole rest of the family was very uptight. That's not the right word. But they didn't show much emotion, put it that way. So I never saw even aunts and uncles, a relationship going on. So when I got married, I just, whatever, the crap I heard in the bar, the stuff I, read online and all this other stuff. And that first divorce, I put a big part of it in there myself. I gotta wrap this up. When I first got sober, I was going to meetings pretty much every day, all the time, kind of like I do now. Only I would not miss a meeting. I remember, brace yourself for this one, I turned down sex one night and went to the meeting. Of course, I kind of figured I could get it when I got home, and I did, but I turned down sex to go to a meeting. I mean, I was that way for about 5 years. You put it on the calendar 2 weeks in advance, and I might miss that meeting. Anyway, I'm running out of time, so I'm going to wrap this thing up and turn it over to you. You figure your own topic out of what you must be able to grab something out of what I said.
Thank you, Bob. Let's give a Zoom raise of hands to Bob, our speaker today. So glad to hear your story, Bob. When you were talking, well, what we're going to do now, you don't want to hear me. What we're going to do now is open the meeting up for general discussion. How did Bob's talk impact you? Or you're welcome to talk about anything related to recovery, and or tell us how your day is going. And the way that we do this is down at the bottom of your screen, there's a reactions or a participants tab, and you will click on that to raise your virtual hand, and then I will call on you to unmute. And so we have a hand up right now, and I see Central California calling. It is our Brian asking you to unmute.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for your chair, Bob. One thing that you said resonated with me. When I left my home group, I don't know, 3 weeks ago, I probably shared this already, but I was told to keep my opinions to myself regarding agnostic, living. And that's when I said, well, I guess I don't belong here anymore. So that was tough, but you know what? It was a good move. I just wanted to wish everyone a great day. I have to go Secretariat in-person meeting. And with that, I got to say adios. See y'all tomorrow.
Thanks, Brian. Good to see you. And we do have a hand up. I want to make a plug here for on Bob's speech. I do want to tell you how I kind of thought about it. He reminds me of for some reason I want to call you Uncle Bob, because you've been in the program for so long. You're so dedicated, and there's so many aspects to your life. I appreciate you sharing. And after all the years of sobriety that Bob has, he's heard everything. And so if anybody's looking for someone to talk about anything, I would suggest him as one of your choices. But let's go to Todd right now, and I'm going to shut up. Hey, Todd.
Good morning, Todd here in Columbus, Ohio, alcoholic. Here's a plug for me. Yesterday was 1 year. And so excited about that. But more importantly, Bob, you're one of the first people I think I saw when I came into this group. Not quite a year ago. It was a year minus a week was the first time I did an AA meeting. And I just so many of the stories and so many of the things that you have said have carried on with my thinking. Everybody here that's in here has done that too, and has all had a part in that. But I just wanted to let you know that I really appreciate that, and like hearing your story even more gives me more of an insight, and just love the fact that you're able to share, and glad that I'm able to hear you. Thanks.
Thank you, Todd, and congratulations on 1 year. So happy for you. And now we're going to go to our Jim in Texas, asking you to unmute.
Jim, alcoholic, grateful for another day in the bonus round. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Robert. And congratulations on 1 year. That's a huge deal. Anyway, Bob, listening to you in the first third of the share was about childhood and childhood stuff. And I was just checking off the boxes of all the things that happened to me. Were very, very similar. I couldn't sit still in school. I was accused of daydreaming, like it was something bad. And I had a part in it too. I would get bored, fidgety, whatever in third grade, and I'd shoot up my hand, and the teacher's name was Mrs. Salmonson. And I'd say, Mrs. Salamander, what page are we on? And the kids would roar in laughter, right? Well, I'd get sent down to the principal's office again. And I'd sit there in some chair next to the secretary, and then the principal would call me in, and he'd grab me by the shoulders and start shaking me and screaming at me. And then he'd put me back in the waiting room there, and then I don't know, it seemed like a long time they'd send me back to the classroom, and this was regular stuff. But all those adults, they kept saying to me, what the hell's the matter with you? And I didn't know anything was the matter. I just didn't know. I couldn't comprehend what the problem was. I mean, when I would call my teacher Mrs. Salamander, obviously I was doing it for a reaction, and it was of my own volition, and I knew I was going to pay a consequence. But all of the other stuff, I remember reading those books. There was something you started at book 1A, and then you went through the books in the A series, and then the B series, and the C series, and I gobbled that stuff up really fast in elementary school, and then I would just sit there, and I'd take the books in my desk, and I'd line them up, the little ridge that went along the bookbinder, and I'd set those up with other books and rulers, and let a marble run down the runners of those books on the rulers and down the hole in the bottom of the desk. And I'd do that for most of the class. That kept me busy and kept me out of the teacher's hair. You know what I mean? But all the crap that adults said to me as a kid, and when you were sharing this stuff, Bob, it just triggered a lot of emotion, a lot of shame and guilt and confusion, and it's gonna be a lot of work today for me to ferret out a good day. I got home from school after the fifth grade, and I showed my parents my report card, and it said that I had flunked fifth grade, and that I had to repeat it.
30 seconds, Jim.
Thank you, Ron. I had to repeat it at Mary E. Silvera School, and my parents just said, well, you're going back to the fifth grade then. There was no discussion, there was no hug, there was nothing. And which validated what the hell's the matter with me. Something was clearly the matter with me, and I didn't know what the hell it was. I was just left in the dark. Anyway, long story short, found booze at my freshman year in high school, and all my problems went away. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you, Jim. And good to see you. I always love when you say another day in the bonus round, and that's kind of a reason to celebrate today. Now, just an off-track thing here. We love people from all over the world in this group. We go for diversity and long-term, short-term, wherever you are, what part of the world you're in, we are glad you're here. So before I call on Dave, I'd like to find out if we have any introverts here. And you can go like that, and I'll look on the screen. Oh, we got, well, by that we got one there, but is someone who hasn't spoken? Would anybody like to wave and speak next before Dave? Oh, no. Okay, well, that's all right, introverts. Oh, we got one. We got Patrick and all right, let's go to Honolulu, asking Patrick to unmute. Thank you, Dave, for putting up with me.
Hey, this is Patrick. So I am an introvert, but not shy of speaking, but I have, I guess you would call it a burning desire. So this morning, some of you know from previous meetings, I'm struggling with my involvement in AA versus other avenues. And this morning, I was listening to a podcast on smart recovery, and I got my bike ready. I'm out the door, ready to lock the door to go to an AA meeting and a traditional meeting. And I stopped and paid attention to the thoughts that were in my head. I'm thinking, I don't believe in God. I'm tired of being force-fed this stuff. I can't stand the contradictions, the misinformation. That's what was going through my head as I'm on my way to an AA meeting. And I stopped myself and I said, what the hell am I doing? Yeah, I can't keep doing this. You know, I can't keep following this pathway that creates these thoughts and confusion in my head. I've got to break from it. So I just wanted to share that. And I mean no disrespect to AA. It's just not for me. And it's something I struggle with. So it's on the forefront of my mind, but I feel like I just need to close that chapter and be done with it, because the slogan meeting makers make it bullshit. I've been to more meetings than I can count and drank right after because I get frustrated. So it's time for a change, and I got to close that door. So I appreciate you letting me vent. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick, and welcome to this group. We, unlike other groups, maybe, we embrace all paths to recovery. And a lot of us have been, and I'm for one, have been a member of Smart Recovery and Refuge Recovery and Narcotics Anonymous, and throwing everything. And I go to a psychiatrist. So whatever works, and you are welcome here to talk about your beliefs and your disbeliefs. And this is a great forum to do that. So I encourage you to keep coming back. And also, let's go to Dave, who's patiently waiting there, and I see California Poppies asking you to unmute.
Hey, Dave here. I'm an alcoholic in recovery, and Todd, congratulations on your 1 year. And also thank you, Robert, and thank you, Bob, for your talk, because I always like listening to you talk, because I always get a good laugh out of you. Number one. Two, you have gems of knowledge that you keep bringing up, things that relate to what I have happened in my past. And that's what I like hearing from people that are in this meeting. I hear so many different things, and I've heard your story before. I listened to it on the line, so I listened to it before, and then this story is different, actually. So it comes up, and it's not different from what you did before, but it's adding to the depth of it. And thank you very, very much. And I'm not going to take a lot of time here because I know other people should get involved before their time runs out here. So thank you very much, and I'll get you out. I know my time won't run out, Ron, so I got time left. So you take care. Thank you all.
Thank you. And now we're going to go, we're going to find out where she is today. Where is she today? Going to Yana in the last frontier, maybe, asking you to unmute.
Morning, everyone. Yeah, I'm watching the sunrise. It's used to be completely dark. It's so nice now that it's daylight out there at this time of the morning. Gosh, Bob, when I hear your stories, I just some of, I guess, Jim, because you guys know I was a teacher and then I moved into special education. It's just such a shame. I mean, simple solutions and different ways to learn, instead of just getting pissed off and roughing up kids. Rockers today, we have rocking chairs and therapy balls and different kinds of things to sit on, and rubber bands that go between the bottom of your desk, so you have something to do with your feet, just moving feet. And I learned all that even later as a teacher. My first few years, you made me think about my first couple of years. I had somebody with some extreme attention deficit hyperactivity, and I didn't know a lot, but I worked in a school up in the mountains, up O'Malley Road, and we had just butt ton of snow. And so I had an agreement with this kid to go out and shovel for 20 minutes. And then he'd come back and he'd just be like, and then it also kind of raised his status a little because he was my shoveler, right? He got to go outside and got to do this. This was a special thing. And so it kept other kids from picking on him. Anyway, I'd get in trouble making a kid do that today, but it was a great solution for a new teacher in the early 90s. I identified with when you were talking about being in a relationship with an alcoholic, because that was my relationship with a partner that, I just looked better because he looked worse. And, and I rationalized that for, 5 or 6 years, I think. So I really identified with that. I'm trying to imagine you punching holes in the walls and stuff. I just can't see it today, Bob. You're our sweet old Uncle Bob now. So anyway, no, don't get up and punch a hole. We don't need to see that. It is fun though, isn't it? Fun to punch holes in drywall. It is fun to take out drywall. I think that's about all I have to say. It's a good day. It's a sunny day. It's going to be, it's just going to be a good day. I'm getting I got all my plants ready. I got everything all washed and drying and set up. So now it's just putting in the soil and some seeds. And gosh darn, I got to go to the seed store and buy some more seeds. What a burden. And I have 2 gift certificates from my retirement for Alaska Meal and Feed. So I'm very excited. If they're open, I think they might be closed today, but I'll check and see. Anyway, I'm excited about that. So thanks everyone for another day of recovery.
Let me jump in for 1 second. I'm left-handed. I'm the only one who got out of school still writing left-handed, because they come and grab it out of your hand. And of course, back in those days, we had the actual inkwell that you dipped your pen in and then smeared it right across the paper.
It's a horrible practice too. And today we just put it in the middle and the child chooses. But I will say that we're still right-handed preference, like kids who are left-handed, they smear the ink or the charcoal, across this. So we're still not totally there. Let's just hope for progress in education the same way we hope for progress in recovery.
Thanks, Yana. I'm glad they got rid of corporal punishment. Isn't that when they smack you? Let's go to, Jane will know about that. Jane, tell us about corporal punishment, and we're going to go to New Mexico now. No, you tell us about anything. And
hi, Bob. Thank you, Robert, and Bob. Thanks so much. Bob, I think the thing I've appreciated for my past 2.5 years in this room with you is just you're so simple. And I remember when I was first going through the shaken first year and very confused. And Bob, you'd always say, I just stick with the basics. Just don't drink. Get to a meeting and don't drink in between. And it it saved my ass a bunch of times. And to this day, when I start getting confused, which is still a regular thing, I just think, Bob, just don't drink in between meetings and go to meetings. And that really, that's how I am clearing out. That's a prerequisite to anything else that I may or may not choose to do. So it's been invaluable.